Batman v Superman and Civil War. Now, it's safe to say at this point, one is faring better than the other, both critically and probably financially. I don't know, we'll see. And to me, that's understandable. I liked elements of Batman v Superman, but Civil War, in my opinion, is the much better film. And I know it seems unfair to compare two completely separate properties, but it's hard to ignore the similarities between them. Both feature iconic heroes, slugging it out. Both movies deal with issues concerning vigilantism and superhero collateral damage. Both have colons in the title. I'm sure there are other things also. Oh, like how they both take influence from iconic comic book stories, and also the colon thing that I mentioned. So let's get into why one is more successful than the other, bearing in mind spoilers for both films. Okay, let's start out with something Marvel has the clear advantage in: an established cinematic universe. Whilst Batman v Superman comes off the back of Man of Steel, Civil War benefits from a world bolstered by that of Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, I'm Captain America, The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark Thor, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man. I could go on, and I will. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, Jessica Jones, The Consultant. A funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. Item 47. Agent Carter. The one-shot, not the series. Agent Carter, the series. All hail the king. I think that's everything. I just read the Wikipedia. We know all the characters in Civil War. Most of them. And no, not all these properties are fantastic by any stretch. But when people see Falcon, who's a relatively minor player, they might go, hey, I know what he's about. He was in that other thing that I saw. But when people see footage of Khal Drogo mermaiding it up underwater, there's no sense of attachment for most. But look, it's a bit unfair to compare one universe starting out to one that's more established, especially considering that one of the stipulations Nolan had for his Batman trilogy was that it exists in a world without superpowers, essentially delaying the DC cinematic universe. So let's talk about the new characters introduced in both. Yeah, this is something Civil War did much better. You only need to compare how carefully Marvel crafted the Spider-Man and Black Panther backstories in relation to what we saw of the Justice League, which involved Wonder Woman opening a string of email attachments. In Civil War, the roles of T'Challa and that of Peter Parker were interwoven into the narrative, especially in regards to the first. They didn't grind the movie to a halt to introduce themselves. They were just part of the story that happened. This extends to when you compare the main characters for both films. The starting and stopping points for what causes the rift between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers is crystal clear. Whereas Batman hates Superman because he's a potentially dangerous alien, which in his eyes, to be fair, was proven correct. But you know what? That's real rich coming from a mass murderer. And Superman hates Batman because vigilantism has no place in his ideal society? Says the guy who slammed a piece of military equipment into the earth worth millions of dollars because he's a guy who makes his own rules. Don't follow him. He'll break everything that you own. Both fights also culminated in revelations concerning the parents of one of our main characters. But you only need to check out all the Martha memes to know which one has gone over better with audiences. From a purely action standpoint, Batman v Superman doesn't really deliver, for me at least, aside from the Batman warehouse sequence, which is fantastic. For a movie that promised to pit two of the most iconic superheroes against each other, we got a 4-minute fight scene in a film that's 6 minutes longer than Civil War, sacrificed for the inclusion of jars of piss and watching Bruce Wayne's parents get shot again. More time with both Batman and Superman wouldn't have gone astray in a movie with their names in the title, especially in regards to Superman, who only has 42 lines of dialogue, which, look, isn't necessarily a big deal. Mad Max barely says anything. But this is Superman! He's always banging on about what's right. He's not supposed to be all, do I really make a difference? Should I save people? Yeah, mate, you bloody should. Lastly, even though Civil War took massive liberties with its source material, I am totally okay with that, seeing as it captured the spirit of the comic and adapted it to make sense in the movie universe. Batman v Superman, however, makes me think, you know what, it's a shame we'll never get a live-action adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. Not in this timeline, at least. Oh, and great, you've done the death of Superman. Looks like we won't be getting that in the solo Superman movie that we'll probably never see anyway. Now to me, Death of Superman is not a perfect story by any stretch. In fact, it's really dated poorly. But there's some really interesting concepts at play behind the death of Earth's embodiment of hope, which we just didn't see. I felt nothing when Superman died. And I love Superman. He might actually be my favorite superhero. But all I've seen is this guy mope around, told by his parents that he doesn't owe anybody anything, and fly a weapon made of the thing he's most vulnerable to into another guy, killing himself in the process, when he could have just handed it to the super strong woman who's not affected by kryptonite. Now look, I know this video comes across as biased, which I guess it is. This is after all my personal opinion. And all of this stems from my thinking that Civil War is the more enjoyable film. I don't know, I just really want the DC films to be better than what Batman v Superman is. But feel free to call me a Marvel fanboy in the comments. I understand. But if you do that, I want you to think about this. Maybe you're the Marvel fanboy. Yeah? In fact, if somebody accuses you of being either a Marvel or DC fanboy below, instead of engaging in an argument that nobody will ever win, just respond by saying that maybe they're the very thing that they accuse you of. It'll give them something to think about, and by that I mean, it will confuse and anger them. And that leads me into the question, which do you think is the better movie? Captain America Civil War or Batman v Superman? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Alright, thanks everybody. Now I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet that you can listen to if you want. That's linked below along with some other stuff that, you might like. I don't know. Alright, that'll do it. Thanks everyone. Take care.